Welcome to another episode of FemFlex Friday. I'm Whitney Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alina Popa. And today we have one of the top wellness pros joining us. We have Sunny Andrews, who, guys, if you ever are making excuses to get in the gym, you need to think about Sunny, because she is one busy lady. Not only is she top in her field as a wellness competitor, already qualified for the Olympia, but she is a general surgeon, works ridiculous hours. So of course we had to have her on the show to share how the heck she is surviving and thriving. So Sunny, welcome to FemFlex Friday. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. This is an awesome opportunity.
Now, Alina, we know how busy our lives can be. Can you imagine doing what she does?
I absolutely cannot.
Yeah.
I don't know how you manage to have all the pressure of such a hard job and be a successful athlete at the same time. But I want to hear where you all started, both with the job and the profession that you chose and as an athlete. So walk us back a little bit through the beginning years of both.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I actually started lifting weights when I was in medical school. So my background with bodybuilding was more of an outlet to me. So I think that for me, it's always been a de-stress. It's been a time in my day when I can just relax. So I've never looked at exercising as kind of a chore as much as I have like a privilege. So even within residency, getting to the gym is like my favorite part of the whole day. So it's been, I don't think I could really excel in either one without the other. So I was running long distance a lot before I got up to medical school. I didn't really have time for that. And then I went to med school in the Caribbean, and I saw some women that kind of had a similar body type to me. They had like bigger legs, and because I had played soccer and ran track my whole life.
Oh yeah, that was the next question. You've been an athlete since you were younger, right?
Yeah, I played soccer in college. I ran track and like 800 meters. Kind of like the long sprints were my favorite thing. But yeah, so so then in the Caribbean there was a lot of it was like a wellness look. So I kind of followed these women around and asked them, like, what do you guys do to look like that? And they're like, we lift weights and we eat. And I was like, I like those things.
We lift weights and
those are great things.
We eat as in we eat healthy, or do we eat anything we want?
No, I mean, they were Rastafarian, so like they eat vegan, which I'm not vegan, but they eat very healthy. Like their diet, I tried to eat like that for a couple of weeks, and minus like chicken and fish sort of thing that I would incorporate, I was eating pretty similar to that.
I mean, it makes sense. We're talking about South America, right? A lot of those women have like beautiful legs and beautiful glutes,
yeah.
So it was the right place to mix in, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you've played soccer and track, I mean, you have quads. Like as an athlete, and especially if you made it to collegiate level with soccer, obviously we know you have some good legs you're working with. So why not just capitalize on that and take it into a sport?
Yeah. And I had been running long distance just throughout my master's program. So I kind of like 2 years after undergrad, and I had lost a lot of muscle mass doing that because I was under eating and busy, and I just felt like running myself into the ground. And I went to the island to St. Martin when I started medical school. I was like 95 pounds.
Wow.
And ended up leaving like around like 115, 120. So I was like, went there, I came and left a totally different person, and it was awesome.
So you bring up a great point, because obviously long distance running it's one way athletes who are trying to decrease the volume of their legs, that they get rid of the muscle mass. So did you find once you stopped doing that, your genetics came in and your muscle maturity just popped back in pretty quickly?
I wouldn't say it wasn't quickly. It wasn't quickly at all, but it definitely came back. I have been from when I started in 2013, when I started lifting weights, to now. That has been my comeback. But it didn't happen overnight for sure. But
so wait
for some
a
reason,
second.
I feel like.
Did you say you just started lifting in 2013?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Well, the 2013, 2014, 2013, I started thinking about it.
That's
and was
impressive.
Kind of trying to figure it out.
With your physique, wow. I mean, granted, there is a lot to say with being an athlete and, that developing your physique through the years. But that's pretty impressive. 2013, and to be looking like you do on stage, that's, wow. I'm jealous. I love it.
I know.
Good for you, girl.
That is remarkable. And when did you finish? Which year did you finish college? And then when did you started actually getting on stage and competing?
Undergrad 2012, my master's 2014, and then I started my first competition was the end of 2018 with.
So you were done with school, right?
So actually, I started competing. Well, I graduated medical school in 2019.
Okay.
So after I moved back to the States. I didn't have Instagram or anything like that, and wasn't familiar with the bodybuilding competitions or federations. But I would go to the gym, and people would ask me like if I compete, and I had no idea what they're talking about. So after looking into it very briefly, I found a federation and did my first show in 2018. I flew out to LA. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. Won my pro card, and yeah.
So how was that experience with the other federation for you after you turned pro?
Well, I turned pro my first show, and it was kind of small. It was more of like a fitness pageant, and I actually studied fashion design in undergrad, so that's why I kind of thought that it was a good fit for me. And I was wrong, but it was a good starting. It was a good starting point because then I got comfortable on stage, and I realized that I wanted to be. I realized I wanted to be an athlete again. I wanted to be a professional athlete and not a fitness fashion diva. So,
did you already have big quads and overwhelming like quads and glutes at that point?
I kind of did, but then they said that they wanted me to do figure and to be more symmetrical. So to stop training legs, stop training glutes, and work on increasing size of my upper body. And to me, it was just kind of unnatural. I love training lower body. So I was getting discouraged. And then in September of 2020, when I found out that the NPC IFBB was going to have the wellness category.
Year.
Yeah, that was my
first in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
We're looking at 7 or 8 months ago, Whitney.
Yeah, it hasn't even been a year. This is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard that was going to happen, and I jumped on board. I was really excited for that.
So you did an NPC local show at that time?
I did there was a Daytona Classic in September. And
you did wellness at that point in that show?
I did wellness.
Okay.
I did wellness that show and became nationally qualified and did everything I could. So I was working, or I am, but at that time I was working trauma shifts and going from work to my show. Like for nationals, I worked a 24-hour shift and drove straight from the hospital to Orlando. And
you
went
won.
On stage.
You turned pro.
My hair was like half curled. It was kind of embarrassing, but
wow,
I'm loving it.
I wanted it to happen so bad. I was like, I put so much effort into the prep. I'm like, if this is the only way I can get on stage, and I knew because it's like a new category and it's the first year, I was like, I want to be part of. It's kind of like being part of history. I'm like, this is so huge and monumental. I was like, I'm going to do anything I can to try. And all I could do is try, So I was like, might as well.
But that's quite remarkable. First show in September last year, then turned pro in November, and then you competed as a pro this year, right?
Yeah, I did the Pittsburgh Pro, the New York Pro, and the Milwaukee Pro. So I did like 3 shows in 4 weeks, and it was fun. It was pro stage is a whole different game. Everyone looks so good.
Come on, girl, you gotta say it. You gotta say it. You got your Olympia qualification.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to see you on stage at the Pittsburgh Pro. And I remember when she walked out, I was like, oh, girl, damn, okay. Shape and curves, and I love the wellness division. So I was an instant fan seeing you actually do it in person. Because obviously I had seen on Instagram, but I'm like, wow, this is just, it's incredible. Your physique is phenomenal. And of course, I was not surprised when you got that Olympia qualification. Were you just beside yourself? Were you like, yeah, now I get to kind of shut down a little bit? Or now what are your plans?
I'm still processing hearing the fact that you just said that you were a fan of me, because I have been a fan of you for so long. That's just kind of like mind-blowing to me, but I really appreciate that. Thank you.
But my question is actually if it registers with you that the progress you have and your achievements in such a short time are absolutely spectacular. Do you realize what you have done in the last 8 months?
It's been, I every time I feel like things aren't happening fast enough, I pull up my photos from Daytona and I'm like, okay, this is just you. It's you versus you. This is how far you've come. You're doing all right. So it's good to keep things in perspective. But it's been a solid progression. Not like super fast, but it's all you can do.
Well, I think we need to put an asterisk because your progress is extremely impressive. And most people, it does not happen that fast. So you are a little unique in that aspect. Most people, it takes, years to even get to that pro level, racing and charging for that pro card show after show. So it's crazy to hear you say, oh gosh, I feel like it's just not happening that fast, because that's really fast. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Your density.
But I think it is too that the fact that I played competitive sports, it really, I had a lot of muscle maturity. Like I had run it off like we were talking about with long distance, but just being able to call on that mind muscle connection that I've had since I was in, my preteens has been really huge for me. I'm can get into a gym and focus very fast. So I do think that I'm grateful for that part.
That is definitely, we can see that all the muscle maturity and everything that you have achieved is the result of a long time of working out. It's not just competing in the last 8 months, but we'll hear more about this fascinating athlete after this commercial.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
And we're back with wellness pro Sunny Andrews. And Sunny, you had mentioned your crazy ride to the national stage last year, that you worked a 24-hour shift and then drove to get to that stage, stepped on stage, and fortunately you came out with the pro card. But let's take a step back, because what you do for a living as a general surgeon and dealing with trauma, how on earth do you fit this sport and all that you need to do to prep in with your lifestyle with such a very important job that you have?
Well, I wake up early. I think that because my job requires me to be on my feet for long periods of the day, that it's an advantage, because then I don't have to do cardio. So then you cut that time out. I'm also really fortunate that as of this past fall, I've been working with long life meal prep companies. So I used to spend a lot of time in med school when I was prepping for my other shows, always grocery shopping and preparing my food. So it's cut that time out. And having your meals all ready. I'll take the stairs at work so that I can get my meal in. I'll just put my food in my pocket and eat it while I'm taking the stairs. But And then, you go to the gym when you can. Usually I always either like on my way to work, on my way home. I think if I come home first after work, I'll never make it. So.
And how long are your shifts that you work?
They're supposed to be 12 hours.
Wow.
But that doesn't usually happen.
It's more than that by the use of the word supposed to.
Yes.
Yeah. Legally, you're supposed to be there 12 hours, but you got to get there early to prep. And then, especially with trauma, you never know what's going to happen. But most of the time, it's just like 5 to 7.
So you finish your shift and then you go straight to the gym and work out, do your workout and everything, and then go home and start all over again the next day?
Yeah, and then you got to do the regular stuff that everyone does, clean and all that kind of stuff.
Do you have time for anything in your life, like free time to enjoy and go spend time, go out with your friends and so on and so forth?
If I do, I have to really schedule it in, which is kind of annoying, but I have friends here and I'm from Jacksonville, and there's so many things to do outside. So I make sure on my days off that we get to the beach or we go fishing. I like to go fishing, get to go on a boat and stuff like that. So
like
I really look forward
fishing,
to
or what kind of fishing?
I like to, I have a kayak, so I go fishing off my kayak or go to the beach and do that kind. Or even deep sea fishing is fun. My favorite fishing, though, is spear fishing, but you can't spear fish in Jacksonville.
That's so crazy. So is that how you, if you're not using meal prep, do you just like, I'm going to go get my dinner, I'm going to go fishing for my dinner tonight?
Yeah, so my coach is John Meadows. The first time he put fish on my diet back in January, I went and caught some fish that day and sent him pictures. I was like, are these fish okay? He's like, what the heck?
That's pretty funny. There's nothing more fresh than your own caught fish, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's a true testament to you as an athlete. If you're working such long shifts and you're like, I'm still raring to go after work, and you head to the gym, because a lot of females that we talk to, that's their struggle. It's trying to balance everything, which you're obviously doing an amazing job at that. But it's hard when you have a long work day, and then to have that energy to really push hard and get a efficient workout when you're so tapped and so tired. Do you find that you have a lack of energy on a lot of times, or are you just so amped that you're like, I get to go to the gym now, and that energizes you?
I look forward to my physical activity, to my workouts more than, I hate to say this, I love my job, and but I look forward to my 1 hour of solid focus more than anything throughout the day. So even if I'm tired, I think the second that I just put my headphones in and it's time to go, it's like I don't think about it at all. I don't really focus on how, you're going to feel fatigue. Like everyone always gets tired, but it's like you have to, if you push through that little 5 minutes of tiredness at the beginning, it seems to always go away.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. That's how it always goes. You get in that zone, right? You start working, the endorphins start rushing everywhere, and then the next thing you know, you had an amazing workout, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you said that you are in residency right now at work, right?
Yes.
Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself going? Are you still going to be in Florida? You want to specialize in trauma surgery, or what are your plans from this point of view?
Not trauma surgery. I have so much respect for trauma surgeons. I'm more interested in plastics. Plastic surgery has a little bit more room for creativity, and the hours aren't as demanding. It's definitely still long hours, but the trauma surgeons I work with, I think it is very difficult to balance bodybuilding and personal life and trauma surgery. They're definitely very valuable members of society. They're saving lives every single day. Yeah. But in terms of longevity with bodybuilding, I think that a more elective type of surgery would be beneficial to my lifestyle.
Do you feel that
I'm looking?
Go ahead.
If I'm going to do further training, it's going to be in plastics. Hopefully, I'll apply for a fellowship soon.
Oh.
So the fact that you are a trauma surgeon, you have to see some pretty unfortunate things. How does that play on you mentally and emotionally? Because honestly, I can't I can't even imagine. I don't think I could ever be a nurse, because especially if it came to children or just seeing, like, I'm not queasy, but the fact of not being able to maybe fix them in a heartbeat, I don't think I could handle that. How do you deal with the emotions? And are you able to kind of check out after work and not even think about it?
And that's where the gym comes into play for me. Without that outlet, I think I really would, I don't want to, for lack of better terms, go crazy. It is emotionally draining, absolutely. And I think it's 50% rewarding and then 50% depressing. So at first, I remember the first day of work, I saw something pretty gruesome. It was like right 5 minutes after I got there. And I was like, I think that the old me would have probably started crying, but I just had this switch where I was like, okay, we got to go to work. This is it. And ever since that day, definitely I feel sad. The saddest part is talking to people's families and telling them bad news. That's the absolute worst part of the job. But, you like anything, you kind of get used to it. And I don't really like to say that, I become cold and like jaded, but you definitely realize when you have to just kind of, your emotions are not important at that time. You just got to stay focused.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because I do believe that, if you don't learn how to shut down your emotions, at that point they become counterproductive, and then they would negatively impact your job, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I don't know if you want to... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I had a similar situation when you're competing too, because if you're able to just channel your emotions on stage, you don't get as nervous. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people kind of let their emotions get the best of them. They've worked so hard. So it's kind of, you have to have the same type of control over how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And you're so natural and comfortable on stage. And that actually has probably a lot to do with what you do for a living, where you just focus. You focus on what you're doing at that moment in time. You can block out everything else. And that's a pretty good trait to have. Definitely helps you in this sport, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was never like that growing up. I was always kind of like the person who wore their heart on their sleeve. So it's definitely taken a lot of practice.
Wow.
I was always a crybaby when I was growing up. So I've learned to channel my emotions.
But how do you do that? Like a physical or a mental process? How do
I started meditating, actually.
Exactly. How do you shut down that emotion? Because a lot of people don't know how to get out of their head, out of their emotions.
Yeah, and I had a lot of I want to say a lot of difficulty with that, actually, because I'm a passionate person, very passionate. I come from a Greek family. Everyone has very intense emotions. But for me, I was able to kind of channel that energy into a positive, more focused way was I've been meditating, and I don't really have time to meditate like I used to, where I would just have like an hour to just sit there. So I meditate when I'm lifting weights. So I kind of it sounds weird, but I will totally like block everything out and just kind of feel like I'm in the zone. And the only thing I'm thinking about is like the connection with the muscle that I'm training. And for some reason, when I'm able to just focus on that lift or whatever I'm doing, it feels like I'm meditating, and then I can control my emotions the rest of the day. So that's helped me a lot.
That's definitely a great tool. And I heard a lot of people that they use actually lifting as a meditation source or as a meditation method.
Sure.
Yeah.
It does help.
And so these things have to play into a role for you, because I heard you coach clients as well. So I feel like anyone who kind of has this experience, like you said, mentality, and kind of coaching them on how to keep focused on what it is they're doing in the gym, on stage, and really kind of learning the balance. That's got to make you an amazing coach to work with. I could only predict that. Do you love online training?
I appreciate it. Yeah. The clients that I've worked with for like 3-4 years, people that right when I started coaching are people that I've gotten to know very well. And it's so fulfilling. It's kind of what has made me want to do more preventative medicine, because I've seen the impact that good health, exercise, nutrition can have on someone, and how it just affects every part of their life. So it's just, online coaching to me is more than just giving someone a meal plan and like a workout. It's there's a lot of different things that I think go into it to have someone be a successful athlete for sure.
And that is fascinating, Whitney, because we're looking at a trained doctor who, through bodybuilding, is talking about preventative medicine, right? Which it's quite unbelievable because most of the doctors nowadays, right, they prescribe pharmaceutical drugs and they fully believe in that. And just to hear you talking about preventative and more natural ways of training, of eating alongside with training and lifting and all of that can lead to more longevity and health, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, it's a different perspective, but again, it's like kind of what you feel, what you believe, and what you preach, and making it rewarding for you as a coach to help people implement this into their lives. Now, do you coach athletes who compete as well, or do you do more lifestyle?
I do both. I never really like to take on new clients whose sole goal or that only want to compete because like they never trained before and they just want to compete. Because then for me, it's like you have to have a love for bodybuilding and lifting so that when the competition's done, you don't feel empty.
Yeah.
So I like to try and coach someone for a good amount of time before we even think about the stage, because then the stage is just it's like a milestone. It shouldn't be the end game, in my opinion. So if you're going to have a long life filled with exercise, which everyone who is capable of doing that should, I don't think it should end with like I won first place at the show. Now I'm going to hang up my running shoes, never train again. So
it's very interesting that you mentioned that feeling empty, because we actually had an episode in the past talking about the post-show blues. Did you experience them yourself to start with, that you know about them, and how did you deal with that? With the post-show blues, right?
Yeah, my suggestion to my clients to avoid post, because my first show back in 2018, I won my pro card. There's no reason for me to feel down. But after, I felt just like this whole, what do I do now? Do I do my cardio? Do I not do my cardio? Do I weigh my food? Do I not weigh my food? Like everyone is just kind of like going into this lifestyle, you're confused and sad. So what I started doing was having 3 goals, no matter what the outcome of your show was, already set, already written down before you go to that show. So that no matter what happens, you already have 3 things that you want to work on. One immediate, like a medium term, and a long-term goal. So no matter what the outcome of that show is, you still have things that you want to focus on. And for me, it's helped prevent that ever happening again.
That's an amazing trick.
Yeah. It's being proactive so that you can make sure you stay on point. And like you said, too, I like the aspect that you said, the athletes who are doing it for the right reasons and not just for the outcome and not for the placing. Because I think that's where a lot of people really kind of have that misconception of the sport and what the sport can bring to you. So that's admirable. I think being able to share that and really preach that as much as we can to the industry is going to help create a more balanced set of athletes, and especially for females, for sure.
Absolutely, yes.
We have a lot more questions for you, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, so we'll be right back with Sunny Andrews. And we're back with Wellness Pro Sunny Andrews, wrapping up talking about how she balances her crazy career as a general surgeon and a wellness pro, a top wellness pro, I might add. So we've got to dive into this because this division is getting so much attention and everyone loves it, including us.
It's absolutely spectacular.
Oh yeah, and you are the prime example of a wellness athlete with your physique. And Alina, her sister, who I was fortunate enough to meet at the Pittsburgh Pro as well, she's a wellness athlete. And didn't she recently go pro?
She did. I'm so proud of her. She worked so hard and she so deserves it.
How old is your sister?
Marissa is 25.
Okay, so does she have the same genetics as you?
Yes.
Yeah.
She Yeah, she played soccer, ran track, and we're similar heights, similar weights. We have very similar builds.
This is
Can
going
you
to be
imagine them on the
fantastic.
stage together? That's going to be fun. I can't wait for that day because you know it's going to happen.
It will happen for
At some
sure.
That's our goal. It would be really fun. We've competed now. We both competed at the Pittsburgh Pro, but she was still an amateur, and that was such a special experience. Getting to, because we competed on separate days, so she kind of played like stage mom to me one day, and then we flip flopped, and it was so much fun.
I'm loving it. One day you're going to be right there on stage, probably at some point. I would anticipate next year you're going to be on the pro stage with her doing a show.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to be delighted to see the differences and the similarities.
Yeah, that would be fun. We're really excited.
Yeah. That competitive drive, that sister rivalry.
She came here for 2 weeks between my Pittsburgh Pro and the Milwaukee Pro. And not Milwaukee, I'm sorry, the New York Pro. So she came here and lived at my house. We prepped every day together. And for her, it was great. It was really good. I really pushed her. For me, I'm very competitive, and I had already prepped really hard for Pittsburgh, and I didn't need to do extra cardio and train like extra hard. So I came into New York Pro kind of overtrained, overdieted. Because I was pushing so hard with her here, because that's just my personality.
Yeah.
So then when she like went back home between my next prep, I had 2 weeks, and I was a little bit more calm. I came in looking a lot better.
And that's where you got the Olympia qual. So obviously it worked.
Yeah.
And Sunny, what was the feedback from the judges on these 3 pro shows that you have done?
So from Pittsburgh, the first set of feedback was my posing and my walk. Oh my gosh. So I specifically on my posing, it was that I was leaning too far forward in my back pose. Mm-hmm. The funny thing was not even the day before, the morning of the Pittsburgh Pro, my heel broke.
Oh.
And I had to, thank goodness my sister was there. She lent me her heels, but she wears a shoe that's 2 sizes too big. Oh. So I was a little bit my walk was a little bit goofy because my feet were sliding all over the place. So there was nothing I really could have done. I tried my best. So that was easy to correct. So that I came into New York Pro, my posing was much better. I fixed that. And then I was over conditioned for the New York Pro. I looked kind of flat. My feedback there was fill out like you were in Pittsburgh and cut your hair, because my hair was a little bit too long. It was like covering the top of my glutes.
Oh, interesting.
And I agreed. Like it was too long. So I got a haircut, trimmed my hair, and then went back to the calories that I needed and cut out all the 2 hours of cardio that Marissa and I were doing for no reason. Then brought a much better package. So, and my posing at that point was, I felt much more comfortable on stage.
So what are you focusing right now to improve in your physique for the Olympia?
For the Olympia, I want to come in kind of as full as I did for Milwaukee, but make sure that I have a little bit more size in my hamstrings, a little bit more definition. I'd like to have a little bit more quad sweep. The judges said that my quads from the back are a little overpowering, but I think it's just how I flex them. If I don't flex them as much, it's okay. And then really it's kind of just fine tuning my posing and making sure that I don't have heels that break. My hair is the right length, and it's going to be just the details. I need to bring the best version of me. A little bit more size in my glutes is never going to hurt.
Yeah.
So
how do you train your glutes? Is it a 1, 2, or 3 times a week workout?
I have tried many different styles of training for glutes, and I initially started training just glutes when I started lifting weights. Not just glutes, but like glute predominant lower body days. And I kind of figured out what worked for me, and then I went all around trying to utilize all these different types of methods. And for me, I like to train 3 to 4 times a week. 3 times a week for glutes, kind of super super hard. The fourth day is usually just a stretching day because glutes are great, but for wellness, you really have to have that glute hamstring tie-in that's kind of like a 3D look. Mm-hmm. And even if you have huge glute max, it's not going to really look that great unless you have the tie-in. And then another thing for wellness that I kind of stress with my clients is the glute medius. So a lot of people neglect that and can't really, in compound movements, you can grow it, but it doesn't grow at the rate you need to have that.
And how do you specifically address in training? What exercises do you do for these two particular areas that you mentioned?
For the glute medius, there's a lot of just isolation with cables or one-legged deadlifts, very small movements. It's not with a lot of weight, but it has to be done. And it's really, it never really gets sore. So it's just these even leg press with your legs close together. It's really knowing how to engage it and then trying to just continuously remind it that you're working it out. So on that fourth day of glutes, I'm not trying to do like 300-pound hip thrusts. I'm just making sure that I'm doing a lot of stretching with like light deadlifts and a lot of like glute medius exercises.
And then what about for the tie-in area? What are some of your favorite exercises to get that crisp 3D look?
Well, a lot of the time I will do just not regular, but I'll do like hip thrust or something like that. But in between my sets, I'll do a long stretch to make sure that even though I'm going to grow the muscle, it tries to have more of a tie-in. So just stretching in between a lot of my exercises has helped me a lot. Deadlifts, like stiff leg deadlifts, are really what's helped me get that tie-in from I had hardly had anything visible back in Daytona to now you can see something.
So that's a great point. So do you do it barbell? Are you doing dumbbell? Or how do you do your deadlifts where you feel it the most?
I prefer to use dumbbells because when I used for stretching, I do barbell deadlifts just for strength and kind of some hamstring work. But when I'm trying to get more of a stretch for my glutes, it's more of like not a Romanian deadlift, but like a slight bend in my knee deadlift with dumbbells. And I don't even come up all the way. It's more of kind of like just a hinge, and you really try and feel it from your tie-in. Which reminded me, actually, I don't know if have you guys ever seen the machine called the Glutinator?
Yes, like we have one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have that at the Gym Jacks here in Jacksonville. Uh-huh. And I started using it probably in March, and I probably use it maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And that, for me, really targets the tie-in. After I started using that, I really noticed a big difference.
That's always interesting. Yeah, and it's different for everyone, but when you're the wellness queen like you are, we've got to have ideas on what's getting you the physique that we all adore and admire so much.
I change around my glute training with some days like I'll do low weight, heavy reps, and then other days it's just sheer volume to keep the pump. But I like to try, and that's kind of like towards a prep. That's towards like once I'm in prep, not like a building season. Building season, I'm trying to just gain size, do lower reps, higher weight.
How long do you have to diet usually for a show?
Usually,
like the strict diet.
I'm always pretty strict with my diet, but not meaning that I'm in a caloric deficit for a long time. From Daytona to today, like a 9-month period, I didn't really have too much of a caloric surplus. I did like a caloric surplus in December. I worked so much, it was just kind of not tracked. But then in January, I was in a surplus, and February. Then I was in maintenance for March, and then April. So it was like 4 to 6 weeks of a deficit.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's doable, but of course, provided that you really follow those plans, and it's pretty much a diet all year round.
Yeah, so that's the difference. I think that I could have benefited from if I had a longer period of time to have a surplus and build a little bit extra muscle, whatever, but I didn't have time to do that. So that's why I didn't have to diet as long. So if I was, I had more fat to lose, then it would have been longer.
Sure. Well, this has been amazing to have you on the show. And as a top athlete, as well as someone who is killing it in their career and saving lives on the daily, it's amazing that you could take the time out to join us. And Alina and I are excited to see you on the Olympia stage. So, Sunny, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to another episode of FemFlex Friday.